They constructed 89 homes on my property, not accidentally, deliberately. I inherited 52 acres in Montana from my grandmother, fully paid and untouched. Drove out to check the land for the first time in 4 years and discovered an entire neighborhood where my meadow used to be. Asphalt streets, lamp posts, couples hauling sofas into residences they'd purchased for $465,000 each. The HOA chairwoman, a lady who'd never earned an honest paycheck but wore a Cartier watch like a trophy, informed me straight to my face I was a homeless drifter attempting to con hardworking homeowners. Claimed her attorney verified the land was deserted, so adverse possession made it rightfully theirs. She'd already banked $14 million in advance sales. Here's what I did: absolutely nothing. Allowed them to complete construction. Watched them install irrigation, stain decks, build gazebos. Then I marched into federal court with my grandmother's original 1968 deed. What would you do if somebody erected a subdivision on your territory? Comment your state below. Let's see where my property rights community is tuning in from. My name's Cole Barrett. Yeah, like the rifle. 44 years old, civil engineer, divorced. I drive a 2006 F-150 that leaks a quart of oil every 6 weeks. Nothing remarkable about me except one detail. My grandmother left me 52 acres of Montana wilderness valued at roughly $3.8 million. Eleanor Barrett purchased that land in 1968 for $7,400 cash. Great Depression survivor. Kept every document in leather binders that smelled like lavender and motor oil. When she passed in 2018, she left me the property with one message tucked inside the deed: never let the vultures steal what belongs to you. I didn't visit for 4 years, divorce proceedings, 2 daughters in university, 65-hour work weeks. But I submitted property taxes every March, $5,800 annually. Never missed, always electronic. I had the confirmation emails. August 2023, I finally drove up to spread Grandma's ashes, turned off Route 89 onto the old logging road, and my heart sank. The wildflower meadow was gone. In its place, 89 Spanish-style stucco houses with decorative shutters and HOA-required tan exteriors. A granite entrance marker reads Summit Ridge Estates, a Hartwell Premier Community. I verified my GPS 6 times. Identical coordinates. This was my land. At the guardhouse, a security officer blocked me. Residents only. I own this property, I said, displaying my phone with the deed image. He chuckled. Sure, pal, and I'm Jeff Bezos. Turn around. Before I could protest, a black Escalade rolled up. Out stepped Miranda Hartwell, late 50s, Botoxed into a perpetual expression of mild astonishment, dressed in cream linen that probably exceeded my car payment. She possessed that particular energy of someone who'd never been refused by anyone significant. Situation, Carlos? She asked the guard, not acknowledging me. This individual claims he owns the development. Miranda finally pivoted. Her eyes examined me. Steel-toed boots, flannel jacket, rough hands. I observed her mentally categorize me under irrelevant. How amusing, she said. Honey, if you're seeking construction employment, most crews have completed their hiring, but I can accept your contact information. I'm not seeking employment. I'm the rightful owner. My grandmother, Eleanor Barrett. She retrieved her phone, scrolled with polished nails. Our title agency conducted a forensic investigation. This land was neglected for over 4 years, which under Montana Adverse Possession Statute 70-19-411 means nothing if property taxes were remitted, I interrupted. Her smile turned razor sharp. That's precious. You know, just enough to cause trouble. She extracted a business card, held it between 2 fingers like it was toxic. Marcus Webb, our counsel. He'll clarify why your assertion is, what's the legal terminology? Baseless. I accepted the card. How many residences are purchased? All 89. Pre-construction transactions totaled $14 million. Families are relocating by Christmas. She stated it like a warning. This is a lawful development properly authorized through Gallatin County. If you persist in trespassing, I'll contact Sheriff Davidson personally. We're substantial contributors to his department's vehicle fund. Then she executed something that made my blood crystallize. She retrieved her phone, photographed my license plate. Just in case you choose to return and damage anything, we maintain excellent surveillance footage. She moved closer. And believe me, sweetheart, individuals like you don't prevail against individuals like us. The gasoline odor from a nearby backhoe blended with fresh asphalt. A pneumatic nailer echoed crack, crack, crack like a timer. I drove home, hands trembling. That evening, I spread Grandma's documents across my dining room table. The 1968 deed, 52 annual tax receipts, boundary surveys. Miranda had intimidated me, photographed my truck, and suggested I was a criminal. She'd also just provided me everything I required to demolish her. Monday morning, I phoned Marcus Webb, Miranda's attorney. His secretary possessed that voice. Professionally courteous in the manner insurance adjusters are when they're about to reject your claim. Mr. Webb is in mediations all week. May I record a message? Cole Barrett regarding the Summit Ridge Estates property. Pause. Oh yes, Mr. Webb anticipated your communication. He's authorized me to propose a nuisance resolution of $12,000 if you'll execute a quitclaim deed by Thursday. $12,000 for $3.8 million in land. I'd learned about quitclaim deeds during my divorce. That's how my ex obtained the cabin in Bozeman that neither of us wanted. Essentially, you're surrendering all your claims to something without anyone guaranteeing those claims actually exist. It's the legal equivalent of declaring, I surrender, don't even care if I'm correct. My divorce attorney had advised me, never execute one unless you're absolutely certain you're abandoning nothing. Tell Mr. Webb I'll see him in court, I said and disconnected before she could reply. I required a genuine attorney, not the fellow who'd managed my divorce for $1,900. I required the variety who makes other attorneys verify their liability insurance. My colleague Dennis, a structural engineer in Billings, provided one name, Rachel Torres. She defeated a mining corporation in a Montana adverse possession case so thoroughly they'd offered her a position just to make her stop. Her consultation fee was $600. I paid it with a credit card and hoped. Rachel's office smelled like aged oak and bergamot furniture polish, the variety of fragrance that costs money to preserve. She was approximately 55, silver hair in a crisp bun, reading glasses on a pearl chain. She absorbed my complete account without interrupting, creating notes in penmanship so flawless it resembled a typeface. When I concluded, she placed down her pen. Show me your tax receipts. I retrieved a folder substantial enough to cause injury. Email verifications, bank records, county documentation, every March payment since 2018, plus duplicates extending back to Grandma's initial payment in 1968. She examined them, and I observed her lips curve into something that might have been a grin on a less restrained face. Montana adverse possession requires 5 years of open, continuous hostile possession, and the squatter must pay property taxes the entire duration. If you've been paying, their claim is stillborn, so I obtain an injunction, halt construction. You could. She closed the folder, but here's what I'd recommend instead, and you're going to believe I've lost my sanity. Let them complete building. I stared at her. What, if you halt construction now, Miranda's company declares bankruptcy. Your land gets entangled in a 4-year litigation nightmare with 89 families who purchased homes in good faith suing everyone, including you, banks, title agencies, insurance carriers. It becomes legal whack-a-mole. She leaned forward, but if you permit them to finish, then file for declaratory judgment. You own 89 completed residences. Miranda's company has committed textbook fraud, selling property they don't possess. They'll be frantic to settle because the alternative is incarceration. My hands were trembling. What if they somehow prevail? They won't. But even in some alternate reality where they did, you've sacrificed nothing. Your land's already occupied. The distinction is whether you battle one corrupt developer or 89 traumatized families. It was cold, calculated, ruthless, and it made complete sense. How much? I asked. $35,000 in legal fees, perhaps $45,000. But when we prevail, and we will, the court grants damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney fees. You'll own the houses outright, sell them, lease them, or negotiate a settlement worth millions. I had $9,000 in savings. My F-150 required a new transmission. My daughter's tuition installment was due in February. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One final matter. Rachel's voice dropped. Don't communicate with Miranda. Don't post on social media. Don't inform anyone except your daughters and maybe one trusted companion. In property litigation, surprise is more valuable than gold. I retained her that day, signed a retainer agreement that made my stomach churn. September bled into November. I drove past Summit Ridge Estates twice weekly, parking on the public highway with my phone camera recording. Carpenters swarmed like wasps. The air smelled like lumber dust and exhaust fumes. Plumbers hauled bundles of copper pipe. Electricians threaded cable through frameworks, and every time I visited, I captured timestamp photographs. Miranda spotted me during her 4th week. She made a phone call. I could see her from 250 yards away, pointing at my truck like I was a threat. 25 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Hernandez, young guy, probably late 20s, with the awkward body language of someone caught between a boulder and a campaign donor. Sir, need to view your license. I handed it over. I'm on a public highway, officer. He walked back to his vehicle, ran my plates, returned looking like he'd prefer to be elsewhere. Mrs. Hartwell claims you've been harassing her, following her, capturing images. I'm documenting construction on property I own. Check Gallatin County records. Parcel APN 44,821,507. Owner Cole Barrett. Hernandez shifted his stance. Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court, but she's filed a formal grievance. If she contacts again claiming you're threatening her, I'll have to intervene. Understand? Translation. She donates to the sheriff's re-election campaign. You don't. Understood. He departed. I kept capturing images. By December, the initial families relocated. Moving trucks blocking cul-de-sacs, children on bicycles, the aroma of Chinese takeout mingling with fresh stain. I watched a couple carry a bassinet into house number 38, watched another family plant an oak sapling in their backyard, and I felt ill because these weren't adversaries. They were individuals who'd saved for deposits, who believed they were achieving the American dream. But Miranda, she was about to discover that stealing costs more than money. Christmas week, Miranda sent me a certified letter. I signed for it at the post office. The clerk, a gentleman named Roy who'd known my grandmother, scrunched his nose when he observed the return address. Hartwell Development, LLC. That's the woman constructing those cookie-cutter mansions on Old Creek Road, correct? He handed me the envelope. My brother-in-law tried to purchase one. They demanded $465,000 for 1,650 square feet. Absolute robbery. I opened it in my truck. Legal letterhead. Marcus Webb's signature at the bottom. 3 pages of dense legal jargon that condensed to stop trespassing or we'll sue you for harassment. There was a photograph attached. My F-150 parked on the public highway, taken from inside the subdivision. Someone had circled my license plate in red marker. Handwritten in the margin, document everything. I drove directly to Rachel's office. She read the letter, then started laughing. Not the polite variety, but the genuine belly laugh of someone who just received a gift. They're documenting their own fraud, she said, wiping her eyes. Every letter they dispatch, every photograph they capture, every interaction, it's evidence that they knew there was a dispute and continued building. This is magnificent. Doesn't feel magnificent. Feels like I'm being surveilled. You are, but here's what you're going to do. Nothing. Let them squander money on legal threats. Let them generate evidence. We'll file in February, right after the holidays when everyone's preoccupied. She retrieved a yellow legal pad. Meanwhile, I need you to gather everything about Miranda Hartwell. Property records, business registrations, tax liens, anything public. I want to know who's financing this development. I spent the next 2 weeks becoming an amateur investigator. Turns out when you're an engineer, you understand how to interpret plats, survey charts, and permit applications. I started with Gallatin County's online records. Hartwell Development, LLC was registered in Nevada. Always a red flag. Nevada corporations are like offshore accounts for people who want to conceal things, with Miranda as the sole managing member. But the financing came from Summit Capital Partners, a Denver-based investment firm. I dug deeper. Summit Capital was owned by 3 partners, and one of them was married to Miranda. His name was Jeffrey Hartwell, a real estate developer who'd been sued 3 times for construction defects and once for defrauding investors in a failed resort venture. The cases had been settled quietly, records sealed, so this wasn't just Miranda's scheme. It was a family enterprise. I found more. The Gallatin County permits listed the land as formerly tax delinquent, acquired via adverse possession claim filed April 2023. But here's the thing about adverse possession. You can't just claim it. You have to prove it in court first, get a judgment, then record that judgment before you can sell property. They'd skipped that step. They'd filed a claim, then immediately started selling lots as if the claim had been granted. That's fraud. Premeditated, documented fraud. I sent everything to Rachel in an encrypted email because by now I'd learned that developers like the Hartwells have methods of making people's lives complicated. She called me an hour later. Cole, this is superior to what I anticipated. Jeffrey Hartwell has a pattern. If we can prove he knew about your ownership and proceeded anyway, this becomes criminal fraud, not just civil trespass. How do we prove that? Let me handle that. You just keep your profile low. But keeping my profile low got harder when Miranda escalated. December 7th, I got a call from Gallatin County Code Enforcement. A man named Steve Paulson, who sounded exhausted in the way government workers do when they're handling their 40th complaint of the day. Mr. Barrett, we've received a report that you're operating an illegal dumping site on parcel 44,821,507. What? I don't even reside there. The complaint indicates there are piles of construction debris, old machinery, and possible hazardous materials. I'm required to inspect. If the violations are confirmed, you'll face fines starting at $400 per day. I drove up that afternoon with my phone recording. The property was pristine. Well, except for the 89 houses Miranda had illegally constructed. No debris, no machinery, nothing. Steve Paulson met me at the entrance, clipboard in hand. He was about 55, weathered, wearing a county vest. He walked the perimeter, checked behind the houses, captured images. Finally, he came back shaking his head. There's nothing here. Someone filed a false report. Who filed it? He checked his notes. Anonymous tip, but it came through Mrs. Hartwell's office as a concerned citizen complaint. So she's attempting to get me fined for violations that don't exist on land she's currently occupying. Steve looked at me for a long moment. Off the record, I've inspected 7 Hartwell projects. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners right before construction permits were approved. It's a pattern. He handed me his card. If you need a witness statement, contact me. I drove home with that card in my pocket and fury in my chest. Miranda wasn't just stealing my land. She was trying to bury me in bureaucratic quicksand while she completed construction. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew except Rachel, was that every move she made was digging her grave deeper. By New Year's, 78 houses were occupied. Families hung decorations, kids constructed snowmen, and I had a court date scheduled for February 15th. February 7th, 8 days before my court date, I got a text from my daughter Lily at 10 p.m. Dad, did you get arrested? Someone posted on Facebook that you're harassing families in a neighborhood. It has 400 shares. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook, which I hadn't used since my divorce, and found the post immediately. It was pinned at the top of the Gallatin County Community Watch group, written by Miranda herself. Alert, local man Cole Barrett has been stalking our family-friendly Summit Ridge Estates community, taking photos of children, making residents feel unsafe. He claims to own our neighborhood despite clear legal title. Gallatin County Sheriff's aware. Please report any sightings, protect your families. The comments were a dumpster fire, people calling me a predator, suggesting I belonged on a registry. Someone posted a photo of my F-150 with the license plate visible. Caption, this is his truck, stay vigilant everyone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called Rachel, she answered on the first ring. I saw it, don't respond, don't comment, don't defend yourself. She's calling me a predator, Rachel. My daughter's weeping. My other daughter called asking if I'm going to jail. I know, and it's defamation and we're adding it to the lawsuit, but if you engage, you appear guilty. Let me handle this. Her voice softened. Cole, this is what desperate people do. She knows we filed. She knows her attorney's seeing evidence. This is a Hail Mary to discredit you before trial. It's working. I've gotten 15 messages from people I went to high school with asking what's happening. Good. Screenshot everything. Every share, every comment, every message. It's all evidence of malice. I spent the next 3 hours documenting the post spread. By midnight, it had 923 shares. Someone had created a hashtag, Stop Cole Barrett. I didn't sleep. The next morning, my supervisor called me into his office. Frank's a good guy. Ex-Marine, ran the civil engineering firm where I'd worked for 16 years. He closed the door, which is never a good sign. Cole, I got a call this morning from a potential client. They Googled our firm and found a situation with your name attached. My chest tightened. The Facebook post. Yeah, he rubbed his face. Look, I know you're dependable, but this client's a hospital district and they're nervous about optics. They specifically asked if you'd be on the project, and you told them no. I told them you're on personal leave pending resolution of a legal matter, which effective today you are. He pulled out an envelope. Paid leave, 2 weeks. If this gets resolved, you're back immediately. If it doesn't. He didn't finish. I took the envelope. Understood. Walking to my truck, I passed Linda from Human Resources. She'd always been friendly, brought brownies at holidays, asked about my daughters. She saw me coming and literally crossed to the other side of the parking lot. That's when I understood what Miranda was doing. She wasn't just attacking my legal claim. She was attacking my life, my reputation, my job, my ability to exist in my own community. I sat in my truck and called Rachel again. They're destroying me. I just got placed on leave. People are crossing the street to avoid me. I'm filing an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Miranda. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with business relations. We'll have a hearing Monday. She paused. But Cole, you need to understand something. This gets worse before it gets better. If you want to walk away, I'll negotiate a settlement. You'll get something, maybe $500,000. You can relocate, start over. I thought about Grandma's note. Never let the vultures steal what belongs to you. No, I said, we finish this, then buckle up, because they're going to hit harder. She was right. February 9th, someone spray-painted creep on my garage door. I filed a police report. The responding officer, not Hernandez, someone older named Patterson, took photos with the enthusiasm of a man completing a DMV form. Any idea who did this? Check the Facebook post circulating. Probably someone who believed it. He wrote something down. We'll increase patrols in your area. That night, I slept with a crowbar next to my bed. February 11th, 4 days before court, my daughter Lily called crying. Someone had sent her the Facebook post with a message. Your dad's a creep and everyone knows it. I drove to her apartment in Missoula, found her on her couch with her roommate, both looking at me like I might be radioactive. Dad, just tell me the truth. Are you really stalking people? I sat down and explained everything. The land, Miranda, the lawsuit, the houses. Showed her grandma's deed, the tax receipts, Rachel's court filings. Lily read through them, and I watched her face change from fear to fury. So she's lying about everything, then we need to fight back. Rachel says we wait for court. Lily shook her head. Dad, you've been playing defense your whole life. Divorce, work, everything. Just once hit first. I didn't respond, but her words stuck. February 13th, the night before court, I got one final message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Drop the lawsuit or everyone finds out what you really are. I forwarded it to Rachel. She texted back immediately. Perfect. Bring your phone to court tomorrow. We're going to bury them. The Gallatin County Courthouse smelled like floor polish and stale coffee. I met Rachel in the corridor outside courtroom 2B at 8:30 a.m. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my truck, carrying a leather attaché that looked like it could deflect bullets. You prepared? She asked. I wasn't. My palms were damp. I'd worn my only suit, the one from my daughter's college graduation 4 years ago, that now felt too snug in the chest. Do we have sufficient evidence? We have a thermonuclear device. Trust me. She checked her watch. Miranda's attorney filed a motion to dismiss yesterday at 4:52 p.m. Classic delay maneuver. Judge Thornton despises that. We walked into the courtroom. Miranda sat at the defendant's table with Marcus Webb and Jeffrey Hartwell, her husband, who I'd only seen in property records. Jeffrey was about 65, silver hair slicked back, wearing a suit that screamed, "I've settled 4 fraud lawsuits." He was whispering to Webb, both of them appearing relaxed, confident. Miranda spotted me and smiled, actually smiled like she'd already prevailed. Judge Patricia Thornton entered. A woman in her late 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and zero tolerance in her expression. We all stood, be seated. Case number 2024 CV 1247, Barrett versus Hartwell Development LLC and associated parties. She looked at Webb. Counselor, I received your motion to dismiss at 5:00 p.m. yesterday. You want to explain why you think that's appropriate? Webb stood. Your Honor, the plaintiff's claim is defective on its face. Hartwell Development holds clear title via adverse possession. Mr. Barrett abandoned the property for over 4 years. Did he pay property taxes? Judge Thornton interrupted. Well, yes, but then adverse possession fails under Montana Statute 7019-411. What else do you have? I watched Webb's confidence fracture like cheap drywall. Your Honor, the title agency conducted a thorough search, Ms. Torres. The judge turned to Rachel. Rachel stood, and I swear the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Your Honor, we're not here to debate adverse possession. That claim is frivolous. We're here because the defendants knowingly committed fraud. She opened her attaché. I'd like to submit Exhibit A, an internal email from Jeffrey Hartwell to Miranda Hartwell dated March 22, 2023. She handed copies to the judge and Webb. I craned my neck to see. Webb's face went ashen. Judge Thornton read it and her eyebrows rose. Counselor Webb, did you know about this email? Your Honor, I've never seen that document. It was submitted in discovery last week. Rachel said smoothly. Perhaps it got misplaced in your office. What does it say? I whispered. Rachel slid me a copy. I read it and my heart started hammering. From Jeffrey Hartwell G. Hartwell at Summit Capital, com to Miranda Hartwell M. Hartwell at Hartwell Development, com subject, Old Creek Road Property Risk Assessment. Randy spoke with our title attorney. The Barrett parcel is not abandoned. Owner Alina Barrett's grandson has been paying property taxes continuously since 2018. Adverse possession claim won't survive in court. However, if we move quickly, file the AP claim, get permits approved, start selling lots before anyone notices, we can create enough chaos that Barrett either settles cheap or gets buried in litigation costs. Worst case, we build everything, file bankruptcy, let the title insurance companies sort it out. We've done this before. Yellowstone Project 2018. Risk level, medium reward level, $14 M gross. I read it 3 times. They'd known from the beginning. They'd known they were stealing my land. Your Honor, Rachel continued, this email proves the defendants engaged in intentional fraud. They knew Mr. Barrett owned the property. They knew their adverse possession claim was baseless. They proceeded anyway because they calculated, correctly I might add, that most people can't afford to fight a multi-million-dollar legal battle. Judge Thornton looked at Jeffrey and Miranda. Is this email authentic? Jeffrey started to stand, but Webb grabbed his arm. Your Honor, we need to consult with our clients. That sounds like a yes. The judge closed the folder. Here's what's going to happen. Motion to dismiss is denied. This case is proceeding to trial expedited schedule. In the meantime, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. Hartwell Development will cease all sales, marketing, and transfer of property related to Summit Ridge Estates pending resolution. She looked at Miranda. And Mrs. Hartwell, if I see one more Facebook post, one more anonymous tip to code enforcement, or one more threat directed at Mr. Barrett, I will hold you in contempt. Are we clear? Miranda's face had gone from confident to pallid. Yes, Your Honor, she whispered. Walking out of the courthouse, Rachel turned to me. That email, I got it from a whistleblower, one of Jeffrey's former business partners who got burned in the Yellowstone deal. He's been waiting 6 years for revenge. How did you find him? She smiled. I'm very skilled at my profession. For the first time in 5 months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I purchased a bottle of bourbon I couldn't afford and sat on my back porch watching snowfall. My phone buzzed every 5 minutes. Lily, my son Ryan, Dennis from Billings, even my ex-wife Karen sending a cautious "heard you had a good day in court." But the message that mattered came at 9:32 p.m. from a blocked number. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I forwarded it to Rachel. She called back immediately. Don't go anywhere alone. Vary your routes. Keep your doors locked. You think I think they're looking at 12 years in federal prison and financial ruin. People do stupid things when they're cornered. She was right to worry. February 18th, 5 days after the hearing, I came home from the grocery store to find my front door ajar. I'd locked it, I was certain. I stood on the porch, heart pounding, and called 911. Deputy Hernandez arrived first, this time with backup. They cleared the house room by room. Nothing was stolen, but someone had been inside. On my kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper with 5 words printed in block letters. Drop it or lose everything. Hernandez bagged it as evidence. We'll check for prints, but if they were smart, they wore gloves. This is the Hartwells, I said. They broke into my house. Can you prove that? I couldn't, but 2 hours later, my neighbor Dorothy knocked on my door. She was 75, a retired teacher who lived on my street for 35 years and noticed everything. Cole, I saw a silver Mercedes SUV parked across the street yesterday around 1 p.m. Man in a suit got out, walked up your driveway, then came back 15 minutes later. I thought he was an insurance salesman. Did you see his face? No, but I got the license plate. Seemed odd, so I wrote it down. She handed me a sticky note with Montana plate number JKL 7823. I gave it to Hernandez. He ran it. The vehicle was registered to Apex Investigations, Thomas Brennan's company. That's the pie who harassed my daughter, I said. Hernandez looked uncomfortable. Breaking and entering is a felony, but proving he did it versus just walking up to your door is tough without video. So they just get away with it. I'll file a report. Detective will follow up. But Mr. Barrett, you should consider staying somewhere else until this is over. I spent that night at Lily's apartment in Missoula, slept on her couch with my phone charging next to me and the crowbar leaning against the wall. February 20th, 5 days before trial, Rachel called with an update. The title agency flipped. Mountain West Title is cooperating with our investigation. They're admitting they knew the adverse possession claim was shaky, but approved it anyway because Jeffrey paid them $52,000 under the table. They're giving us everything. Emails, payment records, recorded phone calls. So we have them. But Cole, Cassandra knows it too. Her attorney called this morning begging for a settlement conference. What did you say? I said we'll see them in court. The silence on the line felt heavy. 5 more days, Rachel said. Stay safe, stay quiet, and get ready to watch everything burn. I hung up and stared out Lily's apartment window at the snow falling on Missoula. Somewhere out there, Miranda and Jeffrey were planning their last desperate move. I just hoped I'd see it coming. February 21st, I got an email from the IRS, notice of audit. They were reviewing my tax returns from the past 4 years, citing irregularities reported by a third party. There were no irregularities. I was a W-2 employee with simple taxes. This was harassment, pure and simple. I forwarded it to Rachel. She called immediately. They're burning bridges now. This is what happens when rich people panic. They throw money at problems until the problems go away. It's working. I can't afford an IRS audit on top of everything else. You won't have to. The IRS complaint is anonymous, but we can subpoena Apex Investigations client records. If we prove the Hartwells filed a false IRS report, that's another felony. She paused. Cole, they're making mistakes. Desperate people always do. February 22nd, the mistakes got worse. Someone leaked the Summit Ridge estate sales contracts to a Bozeman real estate blog. All 89 contracts showing that buyers had paid between $430,000 and $510,000 for homes built on disputed land. Blog's headline, luxury developer sold homes on stolen property. Buyers may lose everything. My phone exploded. Emails from panicked homeowners. A woman named Jennifer Martinez called me crying. She'd used her entire life savings for the down payment on house number 52. And now her title insurance company was refusing to cover the claim because of the fraud allegations. Mr. Barrett, please, I have 3 kids. We moved here from Arizona. This is supposed to be our forever home. I didn't know what to say. I'm not trying to take your house. I'm trying to stop the people who stole from both of us. But what happens if you win? Do we get evicted? No, you'll own your home. The developer will pay for it. And if they can't, I had no answer for that. That night, Rachel called with news. Channel 7 wants to interview you. Amanda Collins, the investigative reporter. She's doing a segment on predatory land developers. It airs February 28th, 3 days before trial. What do I say? The truth, that you're fighting for your grandmother's legacy, that you're not the enemy, the Hartwells are, and that every family in Summit Ridge Estates deserves to keep their home. I thought about Jennifer Martinez's voice breaking on the phone. Set it up, I said. The Channel 7 interview was scheduled for February 26th at my house. Amanda Collins arrived at 3 p.m. with a cameraman named Mike and enough lighting equipment to film a blockbuster. Amanda was mid-40s, auburn hair and a practical ponytail, wearing slacks and a blazer that said I'm professional, but I've dug through court records for a story. She shook my hand. Mr. Barrett, I've been covering real estate fraud for 15 years. Your case is the most brazen thing I've ever seen. We sat in my living room, which I'd frantically cleaned that morning, shoving dirty dishes into cabinets like a teenager before prom. Mike positioned lights while Amanda reviewed her notes. I'm going to ask about your grandmother, the property, and what happened when you discovered the development. Just talk to me, not the camera. We'll edit later. The interview lasted 85 minutes. I told her everything. Grandma's binders, Miranda's contempt, the Facebook smear campaign, Jeffrey's email, the families caught in the middle. Amanda's questions were sharp but fair. She made me feel like I was talking to a friend, not performing for an audience. At the end, she turned off the camera. Off the record, I contacted Miranda Hartwell for comment. She threatened to sue me for defamation if we air this. Will you still run it? Amanda smiled. Absolutely. Threats mean I'm onto something. The segment aired February 28th at 6:00 p.m. I watched it alone in my living room with a beer I was too nervous to drink. Amanda's voiceover began. He inherited the American dream, 52 acres of Montana wilderness. But when Cole Barrett visited his land for the first time in 4 years, he found a nightmare instead. They showed aerial footage of Summit Ridge estates, then my interview, intercut with shots of Grandma's deed, the tax receipts, and Jeffrey's smoking gun email. Amanda had obtained county permit records showing the Hartwells had fast-tracked approvals by donating $60,000 to the county commissioner's re-election fund. The piece ended with me saying, "I'm not trying to hurt the families who bought these homes. They're victims too, but if we let people like the Hartwells get away with this, what's the point of property rights? What's the point of laws?" My phone exploded before the segment even finished. Lily called, crying proud tears this time. Ryan texted, "You just became a folk hero." Even my boss Frank sent an email, "Come back to work Monday. We're proud to have you." But the message that mattered came at 7:22 p.m. from a blocked number. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." I forwarded it to Rachel. She called back immediately. "Don't go anywhere alone. Vary your routes. Keep your doors locked." I think they're looking at 12 years in federal prison and financial ruin. People do stupid things when they're cornered. March 3rd, trial day. I put on the same suit I'd worn to the first hearing, still too snug in the chest, and drove to Bozeman with Lily riding shotgun. She'd insisted on coming, said I needed family there. Ryan had wanted to come too, but he couldn't afford to miss work. Not after the pie incident nearly cost him his job. The courthouse parking lot was chaos. 2 news vans, Channel 7, and a local Bozeman station had cameras set up on the steps. Amanda Collins spotted me and waved, but I kept my head down. Rachel had been clear, no media comments before trial. Inside, courtroom 2B was packed. All 89 families from Summit Ridge Estates had received notices about the trial, and at least 35 of them had shown up. I recognized Jennifer Martinez sitting 4 rows back, the woman who'd called me crying about her forever home. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read, hope maybe, or terror that she'd lose everything. Miranda and Jeffrey sat at the defense table with their attorneys, Marcus Webb, Diane Kelso, plus 2 more lawyers I didn't recognize. They'd brought in reinforcements. Miranda wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost $6,000. Her face was perfectly composed, but I could see her hands trembling when she reached for her water glass. Judge Thornton entered. We all stood. Before we begin, the judge said, looking over her reading glasses at the packed gallery, "I want to make something clear. This is a court of law, not a circus. Anyone who disrupts proceedings will be removed." Understood. Murmurs of agreement. Ms. Torr's opening statement. Rachel stood and the room went silent. She didn't need a microphone. Her voice carried like thunder across a valley. "Your Honor, this case is about theft, not the kind that happens in dark alleys with masks and guns, but the kind that happens in boardrooms with LLCs and forged documents." Cole Barrett inherited 52 acres from his grandmother, a woman who paid cash for that land in 1968 and meticulously maintained it for 50 years. When Mr. Barrett couldn't visit for 4 years due to work and family obligations, the defendant saw an opportunity. She walked toward the gallery. They didn't just build on his land. They planned it. They researched it. They knew exactly what they were doing. She held up Jeffrey's email, blown up to poster size. This email, written by Jeffrey Hartwell, proves they knew Cole Barrett was the legal owner. They knew their adverse possession claim would fail. They built anyway because they calculated correctly that most people can't afford to fight. She paused, let that sink in, but they made one mistake. They picked the wrong victim. Because Cole Barrett kept every receipt, every tax payment, every survey map, and he refused to quit, she turned to face Miranda and Jeffrey. The defendants committed fraud. They broke into Mr. Barrett's home. They hired private investigators to harass his children. They filed false IRS complaints. They turned his life into a nightmare because he dared to assert his legal rights. Rachel walked back to our table. "Your Honor, we're not asking for mercy. We're asking for justice, and we have the receipts." She sat down. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 4 minutes. Diane Kelso stood for the defense. She tried, I'll give her that. Argued that the title agency had made an honest mistake, that Jeffrey's email was taken out of context, that adverse possession law is complex and often misunderstood. But Judge Thornton wasn't buying it. I could see it in her face, the narrowed eyes, the tight line of her mouth. The trial lasted 8 hours. Rachel called witnesses. The title agency representative who admitted taking a bribe, Steve Paulson from Code Enforcement, who testified about the pattern of false complaints. Deputy Hernandez, who described the harassment campaign. She entered Grandma's binders into evidence. Those lavender-scented pages that proved continuous ownership for 55 years. Jeffrey took the stand. Rachel destroyed him in 45 minutes. Every question was a trap. Every answer dug him deeper. By the end, he was stammering, contradicting his own deposition testimony, looking to Diane Kelso for rescue that never came. Miranda refused to testify. Fifth Amendment. Her lawyers probably begged her not to. She'd have been eviscerated. At 5:23 p.m., Judge Thornton announced she'd issue a ruling within 24 hours. We filed out into the hallway. The homeowners mobbed me. Sarah Chen grabbed my arm. "What happens to us?" she asked. "If you win, do we lose our homes?" I looked at Rachel. She nodded. "You keep your homes," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Every single one of you. The Hartwells committed fraud, not you. You'll own your houses free and clear." That's the settlement we're demanding. The crowd went silent, then someone started clapping, then another. Within seconds, 35 people were applauding in a courthouse hallway. Miranda walked past, flanked by her attorneys. She looked at me once, her eyes full of pure hatred, then disappeared into the elevator. Outside, Amanda Collins caught me on the courthouse steps. "Mr. Barrett, how are you feeling?" I looked at the cameras, at Lily standing beside me, at the mountains in the distance, snow-covered and eternal. Like my grandmother's watching, I said, and she's proud. That night, the clip went viral, 4 million views in 14 hours. The next morning, Judge Thornton issued her ruling. We won everything. Judge Thornton's ruling was 22 pages long, but the first paragraph said everything. The defendants engaged in a calculated, systematic scheme to defraud Cole Barrett of his lawful property through false adverse possession claims, bribery of public officials, and intentional misrepresentation. Such conduct is reprehensible and will not be tolerated by this court. The order gave me full title to all 52 acres, including the 89 houses. It awarded me $3.8 million in damages for trespass, emotional distress, and loss of use. It required the Hartwells to pay Rachel's legal fees $68,000, and it referred the case to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Miranda and Jeffrey were done. Summit Capital Partners dissolved within a week. Their personal assets, the Escalade, the Aspen vacation home, Miranda's jewelry collection, went to auction to pay creditors. Jeffrey was indicted on 7 federal fraud charges. Miranda took a plea deal, 4 years probation, $600,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from Montana real estate development. The title agency lost its license. Marcus Webb resigned from his law firm to avoid disbarment, but the ruling created a new problem: what to do with 89 families who'd bought homes on my land. I could have forced them out, sold the houses myself, pocketed another $14 million. That's what the law allowed. That's what a lot of people expected. Instead, I called a town hall meeting at Summit Ridge Estates on April 10th. All 89 families showed up, cramming into the unfinished recreation center that Miranda had promised but never built. Jennifer Martinez stood in front, holding her son's hand. An elderly couple named the Nuyens sat near the back, looking terrified. These weren't villains. They were teachers, nurses, electricians, people who'd saved for years to buy a piece of the American dream. I stood at the front with Rachel beside me. "I know you're scared," I started. "You bought homes in good faith. You did nothing wrong, and I'm not here to punish you for someone else's crime." The room was silent enough to hear snow melting on the roof. "Here's what I'm proposing. I'm transferring ownership of all 89 homes to the Summit Ridge Community Trust, a nonprofit we're establishing today. Each family will own their home through the trust at the price you originally paid. No mortgages, no interest, just what you've already invested. If you've paid $465,000, you owe nothing more. If you still have payments left, you finish them to the trust at 0 interest." Someone gasped. Jennifer Martinez started crying. "The trust will use those funds to maintain roads, cover property taxes, and establish a scholarship fund for kids in this community." My grandmother believed land was about legacy, not profit. This is her legacy. The applause started slowly, then built like a thunderstorm. People were hugging, crying, shouting thank yous across the room. An elderly man, Mr. Nguyen, walked up and shook my hand so hard I thought my shoulder would dislocate. "You're a good man," he said. "Your grandmother raised you right." The scholarship fund launched in October. The Alina Barrett Memorial Scholarship, $12,000 annually for a Montana student studying engineering, forestry, or environmental science. Lily helped me set it up. Said Grandma would have loved that her binders full of timber sale records were now funding someone's education. I kept 6 acres for myself at the north end of the property, the part with the old growth pines Grandma had refused to log. Built a small cabin there, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. Sold my house in town and moved in last November. Wake up every morning to the smell of pine and coffee. Watch elk graze outside my window. Ryan visits on weekends. Lily brings her boyfriend, a law student, naturally. Even Karen, my ex-wife, came by once with her new husband, said she was proud of me. That felt strange but good. Amanda Collins did a follow-up story in January. From property theft to community triumph, how one man turned injustice into justice. It won her 3rd Emmy. Last week, Jennifer Martinez's son drew me a picture. A crayon house with a stick figure labeled Mr. Cole holding a giant deed. It's on my fridge now, held up by a magnet shaped like Montana. I think about Grandma's note sometimes. Never let the vultures steal what belongs to you. She was right. But what's mine isn't just land or money. It's knowing that 89 families sleep safely because I didn't quit. It's a scholarship that'll help some kid who reminds me of myself, broke, stubborn, just trying to build something. It's justice, the real kind, the kind that heals. So here's my question for you. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, a property dispute, someone who thought they could steamroll you because they had money and you didn't? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a library of how regular people beat corrupt systems. And if this story mattered to you, if it reminded you that good people can still win, hit that subscribe button, because I've got more stories like this. Stories about the little guy outsmarting the machine, stories with receipts. Next week, the city council denied my business permit, so I found the ordinance that made me untouchable. See you then, and remember, keep your receipts, all of them.